I'm an assistant professor and hospitalist at the UMass Family Medicine Residency and also an MBA candidate at Harvard Business School. I'll go into more detail about those things as we move forward. So I'm going to start talking a little bit about when Larry asked me to give this talk. I was still a resident, and I was surprised because I hadn't graduated, wasn't an attending, and I remember the speaker at last year's FMEC Plenary, Dr. Erica Bliss, spoke just so inspiringly about the direct primary care model, which is going to be discussed a little bit more later today. And I asked myself, how could anything I had to say kind of compare with how inspired I felt by her? And I realized that I felt so fired up by Dr. Bliss's plenary, not because I'm planning a career in direct primary care anytime soon, but because she was so passionate about the topic. Her passion made me excited to be a family doctor, to be part of a specialty that's leading change in our healthcare system and developing new models to give patients and physicians what they want out of healthcare. As I felt last year, I hope that for some of you, my talk reinvigorates your passion for family medicine. For some of you, maybe it's the spark of an interest in family medicine. And for others of you, it creates a genuine sense of connection to others working for positive change in the world. As it often does for many of us, my commitment to creating this change has everything to do with where I come from. So I want to tell you about some of the life experiences that make me passionate about family medicine. So my path to family medicine starts even before I came into existence with the legacy of my paternal grandparents. This is my paternal grandmother, whose given name is Bella, but who goes by the more anglicized name Blanche, since coming to the US after World War II. When I think about my family's history, I truly believe that it is only by the smallest chance that I am a doctor or that I'm even here to speak before you today. You see, my grandfather, Irving, was a Polish Jew who before World War II hoped to attend medical school. But when he reached the age to apply, Jews had been outlawed from attending medical school. He and my grandmother, Bella, were among the only members of their large families to survive the Holocaust. When I think about the sheer odds of this, I'm thankful every day that I'm able to do what I do and that I can be here talking to you now. Because my grandfather was barred from studying medicine, he pressured my father to become a doctor from a very young age. But my father rebelled, as it was the 1960s after all, which fortunately sent him on a path to meet my mother. And this is the two of them. On the right is my dad, Paul, and on my left, my mother, Celia. This is at my wedding. So instead of science or medicine, my dad studied modern dance, of all things. And I can't tell you how glad I am that he did, because as my mom put it, they met in a bar in New York City because she liked the way he danced. Almost TMI there, Mom. In many ways, the choices my parents made and how they raised me increased the odds of my not becoming a doctor. To this day, my mother is still not a US citizen and only has her green card. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised when she told me that the first time she got health insurance was at age 25, when she found out she was pregnant with me, so she qualified for pregnancy care through state-subsidized insurance. No one gets to choose how they come into this world. And this is important, certainly on a moral level. But the most important lived lesson of this to me is that when we choose to do something about it as a society, then we sow a minimum level of opportunity, one that can allow a child to become a family physician. As Frederick Douglass said, it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. I think that the story of our work as a nation and a people is the story of drawing closer and closer, little by little, to fully understanding and embracing this ideal. I was born and grew up in Los Angeles, and my parents are probably best and most diplomatically described as practitioners of alternative ways of thinking and living. My mother was an acupuncturist, and when I was a child, she and my father never took me to a doctor. In fact, I did not receive my first MMR vaccination until I was 16, because they claimed exemptions for me. So I was 6 or 7 when I saw my first doctor. I had been awake for 5 days to hear my mother tell it with a whooping cough when my mother finally took me to a pediatrician. I remember walking down what seemed like a very long, carpeted hallway when I started to feel nauseated. The hallway seemed to get longer and longer as my stomach swam and churned. Then I vomited the foul-tasting herbal remedy that my mother had given me all over the doctor's nice carpet. To this day, I still remember the earthy smell that filled our house every time she brewed herbal teas for her patients or me. The doctor diagnosed me with pertussis, which I fought, of course, without the aid of antibiotics, and fortunately won. While my initial introduction to medicine may not have been auspicious, to say the least, my second contact, had a far-reaching impact. When I was 10, my mother gave birth to my brother Sean. Seen here with blue hair, sitting in a hole we dug on a beautiful Southern California day at Santa Monica Beach. Sean was a planned home birth, and I was at home when he arrived. At age 10, I was the third person to hold Sean, and it was magic. Every time I delivered a baby in residency, I feel a little bit of that same feeling. And I have no doubt that this event made me think about the possibility of being a doctor. I know choosing the right area of medicine can give every person this feeling, but for me, it is family medicine that provides this sense early and often, because of the variety of clinical situations that you get to experience, coupled with the deep connections you make with your patients. Shortly after my brother was born, my mother fell into a severe postpartum depression. She would later be diagnosed with bipolar disorder. During my residency, she attempted suicide 3 times over 3 years. It is very difficult for me to say this in front of you today, and I struggled with whether or not I should. But I ultimately felt that I should, because almost everyone has struggled with mental health issues personally, or has a family member, friend, or loved one who has. The lesson I've taken from my mother's struggles is that we can make it easier for others when we are most open about our own difficulties and challenges. In this way, we all feel less alone. Coming from this background and considering medicine, as you might imagine, raised a lot of questions for someone who could literally count the number of times he had been to a doctor on one hand. I asked myself, did I have any idea what it meant to be a doctor? After a while, the answer to this became clear. You don't need to have family members who are doctors, and you don't need to know from infancy that you want to be a physician or a family doctor, specifically in order to thrive in medical school. But I didn't necessarily know that when I arrived at Pomona College for my undergraduate work. All I knew was that I wanted to go to graduate school in the sciences, but I was unsure about whether to pursue a PhD or an MD. I learned a lot of important lessons at Pomona, whose main amphitheater is pictured here. But one of the most important is this: if you think you are interested in something, you need to give yourself real-world exposure to it so that you can decide from experience whether you actually like it or not. This is as true in undergrad as it could be in medical school if any of you come from institutions without departments of family medicine. Here's an example of what I mean. Early in undergrad, I was doing research in a botany lab, which was fine, but I wanted some clinical experience as well. So in the summer, I volunteered to work in a hospital-based recreational therapy program for children with autism. Every day, I spent 2 to 4 hours supervising and playing with kids. It didn't take long before I realized that I enjoyed this much more than the work I did in the botany lab, where it was usually just me and some genetically modified tobacco plants. I count my time with these children as one of the most important steps I took toward choosing family medicine, though I didn't know it at the time. After my volunteer experience, I thought I wanted to be a pediatrician, but I also had some sense that I wanted to go into primary care, though I don't think I fully understood what that meant at the time. I chose UMass Med School, though, because even though it is a $1 billion academic health science center, it has primary care written into its mission statement. I was one of those people in med school who liked all of my rotations. I considered surgery, internal medicine, OB, peds, med peds, psychiatry. It seemed like if there was a rotation in it, then I would consider specializing in it. The pediatricians nearly convinced me they were the most fun, but instead of becoming one, I married one, which is another story. Since it's Halloween, though, I felt I had to sneak in a picture in a costume. So here's me and one of me and my wife, Krista, at my school's annual Great Gatsby event a few weeks ago. Back to the story. Needless to say, I was confused about what type of medicine for me. Then I met Frank Domino. Pictured here, Dr. Domino is the editor of the 5-Minute Clinical Consult, which some of you might have heard of, also a professor at UMass, and the organizer of UMass Family Medicine Interest Group, sponsored dinner every year for med students interested in family medicine. My roommate and his girlfriend convinced me to attend Dr. Domino's dinner, and perhaps a little cynically based on my prior experience and rotations, I expected the evening to be about the virtues of family medicine of all other specialties. Instead, Dr. Domino said something simple and powerful, both for its explicit message, but also because of what it said implicitly about his philosophy as a family physician. I'm paraphrasing slightly, but to that undecided student at the table that night, he said, "The most important thing is choosing the field of medicine that you are most passionate about." While this seems self-evident now, at the time it was just what I needed to hear, that I should work at what I was passionate about. Dr. Domino was the first clinician I interacted with who told me it was not just okay, but it was for the best, for me to be what I wanted when it came to choosing my field of medicine. It was another birth story, and I'm starting to wonder if there's a pattern here, that tipped the scales for me toward family medicine. One night, during my family medicine clerkship, my preceptor, Stacey Potts, whom I hope as many of you as possible had the opportunity to interact with this weekend, paged me to assist with the delivery of a then 33-year-old Gravida 6 Para 5. Stacey Potts is program director of the UMass Family Medicine Residency, and I had seen this particular patient at 3 prenatal visits. I would soon be present for the birth of her first daughter out of 6 kids. She was pretty happy about that. And then later I would see her newborn daughter at the child's first well visit. To me, this string of interactions epitomized the continuity, whole family care, and opportunity to treat underserved patients that I love about family medicine. Growing up with multiple sets of parents and siblings, family has been omnipresent in my life. I see pursuing family medicine as an extension of that, to be able to follow my patients throughout their lives. When I hung up the call with Stacey that night, pictured here on my right, I descended the creaky stairs in my parents' home near the Family Health Center. Without a second thought, I climbed into my car and drove through the night toward my future as a family physician. Steve Earls, my mentor and coach throughout residency, and the person I had dinner with the night I found out I got into Harvard Business School while my wife was working, of course, is with me and Stacey in this picture. The most unfortunate thing to me would be if people interested in family medicine left this plenary fired up about it, but the future possible CT surgeon in the room, cardiothoracic surgeon in the room, felt totally disheartened about her future career. So there are 2 lessons from this experience. First, say yes when your roommate tries to drag you to an interest group dinner. Second, in all seriousness, find the field of medicine that you're most passionate about. It is there that you will see the most patients for the longest time. I think it's important to keep in mind, too, that family medicine is not just one thing. Family medicine is not only outpatient medicine. I recently listened to a medical student who was also obtaining an MBA describe how passionate she was about preventative medicine, so she was considering primary care versus a surgical subspecialty. I reflected back to her that choosing primary care seemed much more compatible with her interest in prevention than a surgical subspecialty would be. She replied that while that might be true, she didn't want to spend her entire career doing physicals. What exactly family physicians do can be confusing for some patients and some medical students, and frankly has made it challenging for family doctors and their supporters to brand our area of expertise. But this is because family medicine is many things. In fact, it is many things to many extremely complex patients of all ages. Family doctors are hospitalists with their own family medicine inpatient services, CEOs, future CEOs, nocturnists, laborists, and full-spectrum care providers. The only accurate way to generalize family medicine is that it is the right thing at the right time for the vast majority of patients. Family medicine is for anyone who is bright, passionate about providing a variety of clinical care, and mission-driven to follow their patients and positively impact their communities. It is also for anyone who is interested in it for a variety of other reasons than what I have mentioned. Family medicine was the right choice for me, not simply because it has what I gravitate to in a specialty, but also because it is what our nation needs most. I was elected to Alpha Omega Alpha and had a high-level administrator within the UMass system tell me that I was too bright for family medicine. Well, I couldn't have disagreed more. And I chose family medicine because of its intellectual rigor and because I'm mission-driven. Family physicians are uniquely positioned in terms of primary prevention and health promotion, and are also helping lead the way in terms of healthcare system change. I have told you about where I have been, but what about where I am now and where I'm going? Currently, I'm an associate professor of family medicine at UMass Medical School, where I teach learners and care for patients on the family medicine inpatient service. I am also a first-year student at Harvard Business School in the MBA program. My ability to continue to practice obstetrics has been temporarily stymied by school and the fact of only having 24 hours in a day, but I truly hope to continue it after school ends. My dream is to merge my understanding of medicine with the tools of finance to create effective, long-lasting strategies for improving healthcare quality, rationalizing costs, and increasing patient and provider satisfaction. I am pursuing an MBA because I care not just about the health of individual patients, but about the health of our healthcare system as well. My strong belief is that the long-term financial solvency and sustainability of our healthcare system is impossible without physicians, and specifically primary care physicians trained in business. In the near term, I plan to continue practicing clinically and working with learners, as I hope to for as long as possible. I also recognize the need to obtain organizational leadership experience, hopefully at the departmental, health center, or health system level. In the long term, my growing goal is to represent my community through elected office. I am passionate about representation just the way I am about family medicine and healthcare system improvement. And I think people want and deserve leaders who are committed to them like they are to their patients. At every moment, I recognize that none of my accomplishments would have been possible without supportive communities, teachers, and mentors. While I chose family medicine because it was the best fit for my clinical interests, I also chose it because so much has been given to me. I have chosen the specialty that our nation needs most, so that giving back is built into everything I do. If I could do only one thing for doctors, it would not be to rationalize reimbursement or make them a better EMR. Instead, I would give everyone the ability to never lose sight of medicine and family medicine as a service, vocation, or calling. Because of the experience of my grandparents, I cherish every day of my life as a gift that might not have been. When I was learning Hebrew for my bar mitzvah, I learned that the word mitzvah means good deed. So it is in that spirit that I pass on their gift of life to others by practicing medicine, by making family medicine my mitzvah. Thank you for your attention.